Peace, family. Welcome back to the Hollow Mind Perceiver, where we are breaking down parts of the circuit board. Again, we see a picture of the four outer time dimensions. What these do is coordinate the movement of our 364-day, 13-moon, 28-day calendar. It not only does that, it also coordinates the movement of our consciousness. Now, there's a little bit more information that we want to talk about for the first time dimension, first mental sphere, before we move on to the other outer time dimensions. We want to make mention again of the fact, looking to the right, there are 13 tones for what we call external time. We can see a positive sign in front of each number on the horizontal side, H1, H2, H3, all the way down to H7. But the positive is not something, it's not the type of language that we want to use for this. The positive actually means activation, outwardly activation, something outside of yourself in the present. Not to say the sublimating, which is at the top, is not in the present, but the difference is that at the top, 8 through 13, it is the inward action. In other words, it's not physical. It sublimates. It's in a different form in your present. We can call it the inner world because we know 1 through 6 is outer. That's going to be physical. That's going to be material. That's going to be something we can touch, something we can do, something we can activate. 8 through 13 is something that's within the inner world. That the 13 tones, one of the 13 tones, asks us where, depending on where a matrices lands, that is the tone that we're going to look at and then begin to implement in our outer time for the inner world or for the outer world. The number 7, of course, is the tone of channeling, inspiring, and attunement. It's like a portal. It's not activating or sublimating. So what does that mean? We know that portals is where you can glean information. Portals give you insight. Okay. So we'll leave it at that for right now. Now I want you to turn your attention to the left graph where we see V1 through 7 and H1 through H7. Vertical, horizontal. Now there's a lot of numbers here, isn't it? This particular graph lies underneath the one that we see on the right, which means that these numbers can also be telepathically imprinted upon our corpus callosum. The red numbers are outer time dimensions. They go from 1 through 49. And as we can see, 7 times 7 is 49. We see the arrow right there. That's the red. But you might say, well, what are the black numbers? The black numbers is the base matrix unit numbers. This is the part of H&P where we ask the students to begin memorization. And to give us a head start, we can see the circles on this particular chart at 37, okay, 245. That's right in the middle. And that happens to be, to the right, our master module control, 13. The other circle to the left on the 6th circuit is 47, 341. When we look to the right, that happens to be V6, H6, our intergalactic channel of Alpha Alpha. Taking another look and diving a little bit deeper, we can see the arrows that basically are coming from the Hunab Ku diagonally. Notice that it comes through the 6th dimension, which is the pink area. We don't call it the pink area, we call it the 6th dimension, ESP, extrasensory perception. And as it comes through the portal of number 6, it goes through the channel Alpha Alpha, and it can do a number of things at this point. It can go left to the ESP, which is the fifth dimension, or it can go upward at ESPN. It can go either direction. It can also go to the 3D, 4D alternate phase that we see ahead. 3D, 4D, meaning that this energy is coming from the sixth dimension to the fifth dimension to the fourth dimension and then to us in the third dimension. Now, once it gets to us, and we're talking energy, gets to us in the third dimension, it could either go to psi in or psi out. Once it goes to psi in, first of all, let us identify what psi means. Psychosensory information. Psi. Psychosensory information. In other words, it's energy released out to us. And what's going to happen is that that energy is going to interact with our consciousness, okay, coupled with our mental sensory information. And if we can look at that, we see touch, taste, smell, sound, and vision, correct? Well, when energy comes in, it's going to cause us to have or to interpret what we're feeling, what we're touching, tasting, smelling, seeing, the whole thing, hearing. So we know that our senses at this point, at this base level, is mundane. Okay, mundane meaning that we use it in the 3D and the artificial, that's how we go about our business. But as cosmic beings, we can also take these sensory nodes up higher. We can use them with our senses, with our organs, with our consciousness modes, with objects, and also with our action organs. Because we're touching parts of our brain that has not been touched before. And it can feel kind of uneasy. But that doesn't mean to stop. Don't stop. Now, let's go over ESP out. ESP out basically informs that first magnitude on the fifth force, talking about the green area. I'm referring to colors so that we can know what we're talking about, but the correct definition for that green area is fifth force, also known as superconscious. When we talk about ESPN, extrasensory perception in, then that is informed by the 13th magnitude. What way do I like to refer to the fifth force? I like to say it is how I interpret. Okay? It's how we interpret energy. When the Hunab-Ku sends out energy with those arrows that we see, and it comes down to us in this particular mental sphere or time dimension, okay, it's going to hit everyone. However, not all of us are going to interpret that energy the same way. That's why the hollow mind perceiver is a self-evolution sensory organ. That doesn't mean that if I interpret it one way, that's the only way. That's the real way. That's the no. Everybody gets a chance to interpret their own meaning for that energy. And if it's an energy that you're receiving and you're putting meaning to that psi, whether it's in or out, meaning in, you're giving it back out to from 3D back to 4D, back to all the way back to the Hunab-Ku, out, in other words, out into the cosmos, out into the superconscious. All right. When we're talking about psi out, that means that we're receiving. Let's talk about what these numbers mean. So far, we know that the external time, which is blue, is 13. So we can think about the 13 tones of creation and interpret it as such, whether it is outside of us or within. Okay? The green area, which we have said is the fifth force, we identify that with interpreting energy, but there's also 13 tones. So we can use the meaning of the 13 tones when we are looking at whether it's supplementing or activating, because we're going to interpret that. But what about the pink area, the sixth time dimension of ESP, extrasensory perception. It only goes to 11, but we have 13 tones. That means that this area is not to be observed as a tone, but it should be observed as a magnitude. We know magnitudes give us an idea of how much something is, or how large something is, or even how deep something is. And when we do, we look at the fact, if it's on one, we go, wow, it's not as strong, but it's activating. So you can use it from there, meaning that you're going to get some type of ESP, some type of gnosis, you're going to get some type of interpretation, telepathic download, or anything subliminal that deals with the sixth dimension. We're going to leave it right here. We want to say that always come back to the Original Titan website, where we're breaking down the circuit board of the hollow mind perceiver. Peace to the gods.